everyone. I'm Corinne. I'm so excited for you all to watch this interview with Matt. It was so much fun to share about my past, my history, what got me to where I am now, and the creation of Womaze, a free app that offers tools on mental health and self-care, and more than anything, just connecting with an amazing human, with Matt. So I'm looking forward for you to hearing our chat.
Corin Wiser, thank you for coming on today.
Nice to meet you, Matt.
I am so excited because of what you do and what you know and what we're going to talk about. It's close to my heart, so I'm thrilled. I'm really thrilled. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So we know that you've got a book out and there's all these cool things, right? That's who you are today. Mm-hmm. Bring me back to the beginning, before you were who you are today and you've done everything that you've done. Mm. Just give me like a framework of like how it all started for you. Little girl.
Gosh, there's so many places to go with that. But I'll start by saying that I was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico. My parents are Cuban immigrants that went from Cuba to Puerto Rico. And it was a really awesome childhood. It was fun, culturally diverse. When I left to go to college in the US, in the mainland, things started shifting for me for sure. You know, I guess that's the case for so many of us. And I started becoming a lot more aware of the search. You know, I knew I was searching before. I was looking for answers. I was reading the Wayne Dyer books and all this stuff. Oh, yeah. I didn't know why. And did undergrad, then did grad school. I got a master's in counseling. And a lot of things started coming back to me, which made a lot of sense. And that search.
This is like so you were in your 20s?
Yes, I was in my early 20s.
Right.
I was 22 getting my master's at the George Washington University in DC. It was excellent.
Master's in?
Counseling. Okay. And then I did a program through, back then it was called the Children's National Hospital, where I worked with children who had been abused, actually. Young children had been abused.
Why did you choose that? Or did it choose you?
I don't even know. I know it was an internship. I know I had to do an internship for the program. So I started my internship there, and it was really, really fabulous. I ended up getting a job within a different department of the hospital. But that really, it's amazing what it's been said, although it's very difficult to understand, that we have such the capacity to block away emotions, memories, so that we can just function and go on and excel in life. And during that time, a lot of different things came back to me, which I dealt with a little bit in therapy. Abuse that had occurred early on in my life with strangers, no family members. And it was very difficult for me to tell my family. It was difficult because there was so much guilt from my part. And also as people, and I want to say as women, although I know men are also, unfortunately, also exposed to trauma, we question ourselves and we say, well, maybe I did something wrong, or maybe I put myself in this situation. In my case, I won't go into the story because I don't want to give so much detail, but I felt that it was almost like an exchange that was occurring.
What do you mean?
This person owned a store, and in Puerto Rico, and I'm sure it exists here too, there was something called fiado, where you would go get something and you would pay later. I don't know what it's called in English. But so I would go there, I would get a card, I would get a piece of gum.
It's called layaway.
Layaway, there you go. That's it,
yeah.
That's it, layaway. So in my mind, in the mind of a 7-year-old, that's the exchange that was occurring. It stopped, and then I blocked it until I'm in grad school working with children who'd been abused, and everything just came.
Oh, so that didn't find you. I mean, you went to that. Like,
I guess so.
You went to that.
I guess so, yeah. I guess,
you understood it.
I was reading the books, I was trying to find the answers. I was always very intrigued with connecting with people, understanding people, helping people. And I think where that was leading me to is, how do I find and help myself? Which is, in all honesty, it's a lifelong journey.
It's been said some way that your purpose usually comes from some sort of trauma or something that you experienced, right? And we can all like relate to something like that. So, I mean, I'm already hearing like that your purpose was like laid out for you early on, right? In a way, there's a path that was laid out for you.
Yeah, I think so.
Not by your choice, but.
It's two things come to mind when you say that. There's this phrase that a lot of people use that say everything happens for a reason. And I used to be one of those people that use that phrase. And I remember two incidents. I'll tell you one. I was in real estate. I was doing real estate, which I still do. And I was with a client who I really had connected with. And I said, I believe everything happens for a reason. We choose our parents. And she flipped out. She said, I would have never have chosen my parents. And let me tell you why. So since that moment, which was 7.
I understand why you're saying that too. And you're right, by the way.
Yeah. So now I say, I don't know if things happen for a reason. What I do know is that we can learn from those things. That's the only thing I know. That's the only thing I know.
You choose your parents so that you can have the experience that you're having so that you can do what you're meant to do in life. That's what it's, because if you didn't have the parents you had and had the life you had, then where do you go with that? Like, there's no starting point.
I part of me believes that
Yeah,
we chose,
I think it's true.
that we chose almost, there's a contractual soul-to-soul situation where we choose our parents. In fact,
it's energetic.
It's
It's
energetic.
like the universe at work.
Yeah.
It's energetic.
I used to tell, I have 3 daughters. The older ones are 24-year-old twins, and the youngest one is a 20-year-old. And when the twins were super, super little, I mean, I'm probably 2 and 3, they have an amazing relationship. I've never seen anything like it. Really, truly special, magnificent relationship. And I remember when they were little, if there ever was an issue, I used to say, well, remember, before you came here, you looked at each other and said, you know what, let's come together and let's work this out. So, we're here for a reason. And I don't know if that helped them establish the amazing relationship they have now. And granted, all 3 of them get along really well. But I think there's an ownership to that. When you say, you know what, I chose this. There's a responsibility part of it. I'm not a victim. What can I do to help facilitate my growth or my getting out of the situation or whatever it is? Granted, there's a lot of people who are victimized and there's a lot of people who don't have choices. So it's tricky. It's very tricky. But something that I did learn, I think it was my 2020 lesson, was that many things can be true at once, thanks to one of my daughters who used to say that all the time. And you know what? I didn't understand that concept, and I so understand that now.
There are many truths.
Many truths. And they can coexist. They can contradict 100%. Themselves.
But they're all true.
But they're all true.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
Like somebody will say something to me and I'm like, well, that's true. But this is also true, and this is also true, and they're all true at once.
Yeah.
So let's just let that marinate. And then now have the conversation.
It's humbling.
It's very humbling.
It's very humbling.
You just skipped over your whole life. Go back to 22. So this is really interesting because you came from an immigrant family. Mm-hmm. You found the field that you ended up going into. I mean, it sounds like kind of as a result of just experiences that maybe you wanted to help other people in some way that
and I
had
still
similar
feel that way
experiences.
today.
And you just mentioned like the feeling of being a victim, which is like a victim complex. I mean, whatever you want to call it, but that's, to me, is pervasive right now, like in society. So did you find, I think you might have just said this, but did you find that you never felt like a victim, or that you didn't identify with feeling like a victim in terms of like complaining and say, oh, poor me? You were searching for an answer. You were searching for maybe a purpose, maybe something, right? All along you were searching, but you never felt like a victim, like I'm going to give up, or like what was it that you felt?
I'll tell you what, in all honesty, many things can be true at once. I was definitely always searching outside of myself for answers. And I can give you a few examples of that.
This is back then.
This is back then. This is now going back when I was much younger. Just thinking that my happiness laid on someone else's world. You know, my being in a relationship or my, really primarily relationship.
We just talked about that before. It's the same thing, right? We're saying that, so for you, I said it to you, but you're saying the same thing. To feel happy, it was dependent on the other person being happy.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And being with someone, you know, being.
Always needing to be with somebody.
Probably partially cultural, but being in a relationship meant I'm worthy of being with someone. And my goal in life is to be in a relationship, to have children, and live happily ever after. And that's a beautiful story. That's a beautiful, beautiful story that's not true. I think first and foremost, we owe it to ourselves to be there for ourselves. And I'm still learning that. And thank God I'm married to an amazing partner who reflects that back to me when I can't see it in myself, and hopefully I reflect it to him when he doesn't see it in himself. But there's this, I'll tell you what, not too long ago, I was walking and I listened to this kind of like a poem, and it talked about being whole.
Being what?
Whole. WHOLE.
Oh, whole, okay.
Being whole.
Yeah.
And we have this idea that being whole means being perfect. And
That's interesting.
Yeah, and it really, really hit me. Being whole is being who you are right now in this moment. All of who you are, with the good parts, the not so good parts, your past, your present, the future that's to come. That's who we are in this moment. And we're so driven by exterior motives that we never feel complete. And that was me. That's what I have identified with, that I've always searched, always looked for that thing outside of me, not appreciating the moment that just showed I was whole. Wherever I was whole.
Yeah, I can relate to exactly what you're saying. It's really interesting.
How
and that
so?
comes because, I mean, to me, it comes from trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I guess I can't explain exactly all the reasons behind it, but I went through that same process of awareness with the same thing. Used to always need to be with somebody, and without that, something was off, and it just needed a relationship. I mean, from the time I was like 14 years old, it was always like one to the other. There was no end to it. I didn't know why. I didn't really ever think about it, right? But it's not normal. Like it's not like there's something else going on. I didn't feel complete. So, and the other people didn't complete me either.
Of course.
I didn't know it, but they didn't.
Of course.
So it wasn't, until recently that I realized what you just said, which is like it all starts with you, and it's that forget what the world or what society is saying is what is normal or what you should do or who you should be. When you are really in touch, and to me, it's heart energy. It's energetic. When you're in touch with that,
I love that.
Everything comes from that energy, and then from that it works outwards. But then the world reflects back to you the same thing you're putting out. So it becomes this like ecosystem of like gratitude and just being at peace.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm hearing you say is your own journey of something similar to that.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
And I'm learning it every day. And some days I wake up and my brain's like, how are you going to do this podcast with Matt? What is he going to talk to you about? What is there to share? And then sometimes my bigger, wiser voice says, you have something to share. And whatever it may be, you have something to share. We all have something to share.
You do.
We all have something to share. And I think what we're most hungry for is also authenticity, really, really connecting.
It's the connection.
Yeah, on a deep level, not
superficial.
Not superficially. Yeah, at least that's where my drive is. I love connecting with people, but really connecting with people.
It's human. I mean,
Yeah.
so think about being isolated for whatever a year. like a year ago.
Yeah.
Like that feeling that everybody felt, or most people felt that you talk to, like not being around other people, because as human beings, like we need to feel that sense of community. We need to feel being around people. We need to feel the communications, like all of it. And when you're isolated, I mean, what does it do? It's obviously it's to drive you crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're seeing it.
So
we're seeing a lot of depression.
you strip away everything.
Yeah.
And we all get reminded that we straight up just need to be around people.
Yeah.
It's human.
Yeah. Yeah. We need to be around people, and we need to be around our people. Meaning, I don't want to say the right people, because it's not like there's right people and wrong people, but your people. So the other day I was talking with my youngest daughter, Hannah, and I said, isn't there a phrase that something about when you're with people and you don't feel good, it's just that they're just not your people. They're just not your people. Move away from those people and go towards where you're seen. Just yesterday, I had a conversation with a neighbor who said to me, I love talking to you and your husband because I feel like, people like you bring out the best in me. And I said to him, oh my God, that is like the biggest compliment. Thank you so much. It's not me, it's him. It's the interaction, it's the energetic exchange
it's
that
energetic.
there is. Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a chiropractor I used to go to in Jersey, and he used to refer to people as energy vampires that could walk into a room and just suck the energy out of a room. Maybe they're toxic, maybe they're negative, like whatever it is, you can feel it. Like they walk in and you're like, oh, it doesn't feel good. Like it's energetic. You can't put your finger on it, but it just feels wrong. Or conversely, you could walk into a room and you can kind of like, oh.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, okay, that feels good. There's a book called Blink.
Of course.
Malcolm Gladwell, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's about, right?
Yeah.
And what is it? It's your gut, but is it really your gut? No, it's every experience you've had in your life. It's your mind processing that, and you happen to feel it in the gut, right? But it's real. It's your entire life's experience.
I love
and that's what that person felt talking to you.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that feels good.
Yeah. And I've had situations like that that just feel very synchronistic, almost like they were meant to be.
Yeah.
And I just go with that feeling, that gut feeling, that intuition, because there's something there. And maybe it's just getting to know someone. Maybe it's just saying the right thing at the right moment. Maybe it's you listening to the right thing at the right moment and saying, wow, okay, that really, I'm taking that with me. Whatever it may be. And that's really where this entire journey, I think, for me, has led me to right now. And it's been through a lot of struggle, a lot of pain. There's been all sorts of swings within that. My purpose is just to be heart-centered, to connect with people in a way where I'm being authentic, and hopefully that inspires them to be authentic as well, but I can't control that. And if there's not the space, if the space is not being created, it's because that's not the space where I need to be. And we're not meant to connect with every single human being.
No, of course not.
No.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, we can be kind and heart-centered and want the best for people, but not need to have those people in our lives. It's called boundaries.
That's really interesting too. The idea of boundaries. Because people have such a different sense of what a boundary is. You ended up getting a degree, obviously.
Yes, in counseling.
In counseling. And so you worked as a counselor for a while.
Yeah.
With adolescents, maybe younger than that, like
I
small
worked
children.
with children and adolescents in Washington, D.C. in a program that was funded by the government to work actually with immigrants back then. Spanish-speaking immigrants, and I loved it. It was very fulfilling. I would go to the schools and offer free counseling, and then I would also go to these children's homes and sometimes see how they were living in these conditions where it was a studio apartment with 10 mattresses, that sort of thing. It was incredible. And then after a little while, through South Florida, I ended up in Central Florida working for a psychiatric hospital where I also did something very similar where I would go into the schools and offer free services to children individually and in group counseling but with the intent that if they needed something further, that they would be referred to the hospital. So sometimes it felt a little too self-serving. When I was out there offering the free services, it felt great, but then when the numbers were not met, and so at that point I remember leaving the hospital feeling like I can't do this anymore, because if what you're looking for are numbers, I'm not going to give you those.
Did you feel like that there were some people that you were like, I really made a difference in that child's life? Or did you ever get that kind of feedback over time as time went on, that maybe they came and found you afterwards? Did you ever have something like that happen?
I've had some of those, yeah. And they've been very, very special, especially fast forward all these years to 4 years ago when my 3 daughters and I created Womaze. It's a free app that offers tools for mental health and self-care. Although, especially most recently, everything's been virtual. We did have events in person, and they had to speak at different events at USC, where my youngest daughter goes to now. We had that interaction person to person, but mostly we used to get emails and text messages and Instagram messages saying, you have no idea how this made my life today. I really needed to hear this today. Thank you so much. The app is most known for sending out daily reminders that you are enough in whatever way. It can be,
that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
And we hear it all the time from everyone, that they come at exactly the right time, the right moment. I mean, we've heard stories. I remember years ago, we got a message from someone who was about to have an interview for an adoption situation. And she was very nervous. And right before walking in, the message says something like, you've got this. She was like, okay, I got this. And she walked in, whatever. And then months later, she got another message saying, it's all going to come together. And she heard from the adoption company or agency, things like that.
That's
very
serious. That's big impact.
Yeah, we've had a lot of those. We've had a lot of those people reaching out, just saying, I needed to hear this right now. Thank you so much. Okay.
When I was a kid, I got lost in the music. That was one of my escapes. So I would ride my 10-speed around town with my Walkman, and listening to all kinds of music. And I had friends, brothers that were older, so it was like Allman Brothers type of stuff. This wide variety of music. Frank Sinatra from my grandmother. So you put me in a car and turn on 80s or 90s station or whatever, every single song that comes on, within 2 notes, I can tell you the song. It's ridiculous.
Do you play an instrument?
I play the guitar, but not great, and I can't read music. I can play it by ear. So if I hear a song and then I can actually see the chords written down, I'm like, oh, okay, I can do that.
Wow.
But the
sure
music was an escape for me.
Yeah.
It was, and it still is actually. When this came out of that discovery process too. I notice every time I feel like I want to reset or I just need to be alone, I go to music. There's always earphones in my ear.
That's easy enough.
It does something.
Wow.
It soothes me.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It all just plays out. It's all this running story, and it all goes back to childhood. Everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why when you said that this program had been really good for you, that's tricky too, because I was always that person that said, don't dwell on the pain, don't dwell on that. Just what is it that you want, and just go for it. That was everything I read, everything. And in the last few years, honestly, pretty recently, I understand that there needs to be space to release. For some people, it may be a month, a week, whatever. For some people, it may be years. But everyone is different. Everyone's wired differently. But I think ignoring it will only propel you.
You can't.
It
needs to pass through.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got to pass through.
Exactly.
So,
and we're a society, I think, that doesn't encourage that.
No, we're encouraged to, I don't know, I guess to keep it in.
Yeah.
But you got to let it pass through. And so I just learned that. I didn't know that years ago. But anything that happens, experience it, do whatever you got to do to process it, but then let it come out the other side. And I'm talking about heart energy. It's got to pass through, because when you keep it in, that's where I believe illness comes from, even cancer. It got to the, I'll show you something. I was going to draw this for you before, but I walked into my chiropractor's office in Jersey a long time ago, and he had this thing on his wall. Sorry, my leg fell asleep. It was beliefs. It's a chart on the wall. It's only got 4 words. It goes, beliefs create thoughts. Make sure I get this right. Thoughts create feelings / emotions.
I wrote a book exactly that follows that.
We're gonna get to that. Is that the book that we're
Matters of the Heart.
Yeah, I want to get to that right soon because I'm like I'm anxious.
Your thoughts matter, your feelings matter,
and
your words
this
matter.
causes the outcome. So it's beliefs, thoughts, feelings, outcomes,
Absolutely.
or it could be emotions. And so if you can change your beliefs, you'll change your outcomes. I live like this. So because I believe in this, I also believe that if I feel like I'm getting a cold, I have to think about, whoa, when did that start? Or I'll tell you a really good one. I had a pain in my shoulder for like 3 months. So I go to the gym a lot. So I'm like, oh, maybe I got hurt. So I go to the doctor. They do whatever, X-rays, MRI. They stick the needle in with the cortisone, whatever. Nothing made a difference. So I go to the chiropractor. He's like, what's on your mind? Going through that business like breakup. And I said, holy shit. He goes, when did it start? And we actually tracked it back. And I'm like, oh my God, it started. So then he and I began talking about what my belief is. And I didn't want to interrupt you, but I wrote this down when you said not good enough. Some of the biggest fears we have are the fear of, a false belief that we have is that we're not good enough.
Right.
But also I have a belief or a fear of not having money, right? Because I came from nothing.
Right.
So it's still in the back of my mind, but I don't have the same belief I used to have. So he's like, we peeled back the layers, and he's like, well, what's going to happen if you guys split up? And I'm like, well, okay, this could happen. He goes, what's the worst that could happen if the company goes out of business? He's like, so I could just go get a job somewhere and I'll probably make a lot of money. He's like, okay. So he's like, what would happen if that happened? And I'm like, oh shit, none of this matters. Like, what the hell am I worried about? Like, I've achieved enough. I have, advanced degrees. I've got experience and all that shit. And he's like, so what's the difference? Within 3 days, the pain was gone and never came back. It was up here. And it just so happened it was manifesting in my shoulder. I don't know why.
That's incredible.
And I believe it, by the way. So like whenever I feel like I'm getting sick, which is not often anymore down here, but in Jersey it was like all the time, right? Because you're around all these people. But it's not that. It was my immune system would get weaker when my mind was dwelling on the same things over and over. So when you said before, we can start up again. Like if we never stopped.
We're going to start. Yeah, we're rolling.
What were we talking about when I stopped us?
Feeling accomplished. You were talking about the app. And you were saying about how
the
messages.
the messages people were getting and how helpful that.
All right, I want to go. So with that app, sending those messages out, and you're mentioning things like not good enough. There is. You ever heard of Brene Brown?
Of course.
Right. So I've listened to all of that stuff, and underneath that, her message is all about as we're kids being brought up, we often feel we're not good enough. Boys for one reason, girls for another reason. And we carry that around with us, and it comes out in life in so many different ways, and we're not aware of it. It's just programmed in there.
Yeah.
And so what you just talked about was like, wow, there's an app where you can send a message out to remind people, like, no, you are good enough, and a variety of other messages you're going to put out.
Yeah.
That sets a tone for what might be a false belief that's floating around in the back of your head, which isn't even true. I mean, you are good enough. Everybody's good enough. Maybe somebody in school told you, maybe it was a teacher, maybe it was a parent.
Yeah.
Could have been one instance that just stuck with you for life.
Yeah.
And it defines your entire life.
Yeah.
When it's not even true, but it became true because you let it be true.
Yeah.
So what you just said you guys are doing is powerful and it's important.
Yeah, it's very interesting how it came together, and it really, even though we're not, the 4 of us, my 3 daughters and myself, we're not full-time anymore working on the app. I'll speak for myself. I think it just really is, the app is a manifestation. It's called Womaze because women are amazing. It's a manifestation of so many of those beliefs that I have. And it's not because I think I'm amazing and I feel that way all the time, not at all. It's because a part of me knows that, but needs to be reminded. And this is what this is. the app serves as that reminder.
Why do you need to be reminded? What goes on in that?
Well, I'll tell you, we live in a society where we're interacting with messages all the time, many of which we're not even aware of, whether it's the music we're listening to or the billboards or the ads. We're always being sold something. And the way we buy into it is because we believe we're not enough and that we need those things. So that's
and they're feeding into that with the advertising and everything.
Absolutely. I mean,
Clothes,
unless you live
magazines.
alone in a monastery somewhere in the mountains and just really immersed in nature, we're affected by everything we're exposed to. So that's something else that people talk about, curating their Facebook followers and all that. How about curating, what you see, what you listen to, who you're with, because that affects you.
That's who you are.
And exactly. Well, it's funny that you say that. My girl said, Hannah, who I spoke with the other day as well, she said, Mami, there's one thing that I learned from you, was a phrase you always used to say, and it was, dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres. Tell me the company you keep, and I'll tell you who you are.
So true.
And it's very true.
Sounds even better when you do it that way.
And it's very, 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 very true. Granted, I'm sure whether it's in certain relationships or work-wise, we need to be engaging with people that don't necessarily reflect our core values. But who we spend most of our time with really is just an extension of who we are. And I can tell you, I mean, I've been in places that have been very, 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 very dark. And the people that I was surrounded with reflected that darkness.
And you feel that energy.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, it's
But I
terrible.
attracted it. I was part of it, and I was okay with it because I was in that place. But the moment you start, whether through therapy, which I have been in, or whatever it is, whatever methods, a good community, a good supportive group of people, you start seeing a little bit more of the light and the light and the light, the light within and the light outside. And you say, wait a second, are these the types of people that I want to be with? And then you start simplifying. I also think it's something about getting older where you just say,
It's called wisdom.
Yeah. I guess so. It's wisdom. It's like, I want to enjoy my day today. And this is what I'm going to do to enjoy my day. And it may be something very simple.
So when you think about purpose, I mean, there's a lot behind purpose, but one of the most simple things that we are on this planet to do is to wake up and be happy.
Yeah.
It's like counterintuitive. That's why being unhappy doesn't feel good, right?
I love
Enjoy
that.
your day.
Yeah.
Feel fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
Like joy, happiness, fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, for all these different reasons, it gets in our way.
Mm-hmm.
But it always goes back to that. If you stay, and gratitude, right? If you stay in that place, everything else actually is sort of okay.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, everything that reflects back to you is also okay. And so you almost repel the people that are toxic or negative.
Right.
If you're positive and if you feel good, and the trick is, how do you stay in a place where you feel fulfilled and happy and content on a daily basis,
Okay.
and reset yourself when you don't feel that way.
Okay. Are you asking me? Because I was going to
No,
ask
but
you.
I'm gonna, now you have an answer, so now I want to hear it.
Okay. Well,
It was rhetorical.
yeah, it was rhetorical, but we all
me.
have those tools.
Tell me.
We may not put them into practice every day, but we have those tools. I
Yeah.
call them my bookends. It's how
Okay.
I start my day and how I finish my day.
Okay.
So for the last, God knows.
You're about to
how-
give me some steps here. I can feel it.
No. Super
I
simple.
want them. Go ahead.
Super simple. I wake up in the morning. I'm usually not a very talkative person in the morning. I go exercise, whether it used to be at the gym, not anymore. I go walking. I love my walks. I'm in silence for the first half hour, and then the second half hour, I'm listening to music or a very good podcast. By the time I come home, I'm like so ready to meet the day. And
You walk outside, right?
I walk outside, yeah. Or I'll do a workout outdoors in our patio. But I have my me time where it's almost like, this is going to sound very out there, but I'll say it. It's almost like
I love it already.
during my sleep time, that part of me, my soul, whatever, just really goes, that when it re-enters, it really needs some time to really re-enter and reintegrate itself with this body. And I know that, and I've known that. I had an uncle who I adored, who unfortunately passed away. He used to make fun of me because he used to say, Corin, in the morning, you were like I was an ogre. You couldn't talk to me. We did carpool. He used to take me to school. I was such in a bad mood, but it was because I needed my time to reintegrate myself within myself. And now I know that, and my husband respects that. So I go out for a walk. By the time I'm back, I'm saying hello to the entire neighborhood, and I'm just like, let's get the day going. So I love starting my day that way.
Wait, hold on. So I'm thinking silence and solitude. You said silence, but I hear solitude.
Yes.
Because you're able to be inside your own mind or inside your body, and it's just you.
Just me. I'm not talking with anyone typically.
Well, what are you thinking about though? What's going on? Or it's just whatever. It's just natural. It's whatever. It's just that time by yourself.
Yeah.
Every day.
And sometimes my mind is racing, and then I bring it back to the moment. I look at my feet and I said, okay, Corinne, you're walking now. You're taking these steps. You're listening to the leaves crumble. You're listening to the birds. I just bring it back to this moment in time so that I can ground myself. And not that I do it for the entire half hour, but I try to incorporate that, and my mind goes again, and then I come back.
So important.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked you if you do it outside.
Yes.
Because the vibration from either the ocean or I have a lake, waterfalls, so there's water all around me.
Nice.
And that vibration outside changes how I feel in a second.
Yes.
So for you, it's going outside, walking, and it's calibrating you for the day.
Correct.
That's why I asked you if you do it outside. Because if you're inside, you're not going to get the same feeling. Right?
Correct. Absolutely. And certainly not at the gym for me. Not right now, anyway.
Right.
I love going to the ocean. I love, taking a walk early in the morning and just coming back and I'll go swimming. I don't care if it's raining, storming, whatever. I'll go swimming, and then I'm just like, whoa, I'm full of life. And then at the end of the day, I try to.
Then you can be talked to at that point.
Yeah, you can tell me anything and I'm good.
All right. So it's 1 hour. Don't go near her. Exercise. She's got to be outside walking in silence, and you can talk to her.
And by the way, when my daughters were little, because people may say, well, I can't afford that. I have little kids. I used to wake up at 5 a.m. and do it. So that by the time I was getting them up for preschool, whatever it may be, I was showered, dressed, ready to go.
Very powerful. So that's your way of doing it. Some people
morning,
meditate. I think it's popular, right?
Yeah.
But it's that solitude. It's the like that mind space. Space. Yeah. It's so important.
Yeah.
That creates joy. It opens up your heart. I do meditation in the morning. Sometimes it's actually a heart meditation. I listen to people, and they talk you through getting into a space where you're present in that moment, and then you can all of a sudden you can have thoughts and connect those thoughts to your heart, and you can actually feel it, right? But it sticks with you the entire day.
Yeah, yeah.
And the days I don't do that, my days are different.
I heard you say that before in one of your interviews. Yeah.
That came out of my own process.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, sometimes Saturdays, I just sleep in, I want to sleep late, and I'm not the same. And it's okay. It's okay.
It is okay.
It's okay to be a little
But you know the difference.
Oh,
and
I
you know
notice
why.
it in my body. Absolutely. I notice it in the way I show up for people, the way I show up for myself and for my puppy. I mean, I'm a different person. I'm slower. And that's okay too. But I'm aware of it.
So how do we get on this? We got on this because it's fulfillment, it's happiness, it's joy. It's like, what do you do? And
to bring you back to that
to bring
place.
you back to center. But what do you do? What do you do to actually to be happy? And so it's like everybody's got their own story. But if you're on this planet and you're not able to find that feeling, you're missing out on life. You really are, because then what is it? Just pain, suffering, debt, news. It's all bullshit.
Exactly.
You've got to find a way to like really, really be yourself, find yourself, and enjoy your life.
Yeah.
Tell me
And
about
it's scary. It's scary.
It's very scary.
It's not.
You have to look inside yourself deeply.
Yeah.
Which is very painful.
Yeah. We
It's
have
a long
lot
process.
of distractions. We have a lot of pain points that can easily be covered with so many things at our fingertips. Social media, shopping, drugs, but you name it. There's so many different things. Even honestly, being of help to someone else for me was an escape.
Big deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Volunteering. So all right, I want to get very specific. So I want to talk about the book that you've written, and I want to talk about maybe like the the subset of children, but
Okay.
little girls,
Okay.
and the importance of their father in their life. Can you talk about that?
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? Because that's a very powerful force. The father
Yes.
in your life to a girl sets a tone. Can you talk about that if we go there?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's
Yeah.
talk about your book first.
Okay.
Tell me about like why you wrote the book, what the experience was, because there's a purpose behind that.
Yeah.
It came out of something.
Yeah.
What was it?
So basically, 15 years ago or so, I was drawn to reading my old journals. I've been writing journals since I was 6, 7 years old. And I've kept a lot of these journals, and I was reading my journals, and I saw a lot of that search and that sense of not being enough, and trying to fulfill that by having a boyfriend or doing something or whatever it may be. So I said, oh my God, I have 3 daughters. What am I going to do? So I just started writing. And at one point my husband said, well, maybe that's, you talked about writing a children's book. Maybe this is the book. So I said, well, okay. So I self-published the book. It's called Matters of the Heart, A Guide to Living and Loving Your Teen Years. It has 10 different chapters, and they're all about a matter, like thoughts matter, beliefs matter, feelings matter, the world matters, you matter, friendships matter, family matters. And it just takes you through this journey of what matters to you. And in it, there's...
As a child? Or as a, from what perspective?
It's like a journaling, introspective, interactive book that also features a young girl named Nikki. And
So it really is from your perspective. This
Yeah.
is from a woman who's got daughters.
Yeah.
So a reader would benefit if you were a woman who had daughters, or maybe a father
Yeah.
of daughters.
Yeah.
Okay.
We actually created a mother and daughter book club, and it was shared a
Really?
lot in that way. Yeah, the book
So it's a
is
community.
Yes, it was somewhat of a community. I loved it. It's, and I know my daughters are not going to be happy with me, but it's very outdated. The book, and it talks about MySpace and all the, like it's outdated. It's outdated. But
But the concepts aren't.
But the concepts are still
timeless.
there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's even more challenging now, I think, because those outside forces are so much louder. With social media.
It's so much more difficult now.
Yeah.
I have 2 girls. I mean, I watch. It's like, it's difficult.
It is.
And we watch what their friends are up to, and the isolation is a problem, because of COVID. And
Yeah.
it's like, that's new.
Yeah.
That's never happened before. A lot of kids are like depressed,
Yeah. Yeah.
But go back to your book.
So that was my book, and I ended up doing some book clubs and doing some speaking engagements in different places, and I loved it. I did that for a while, and then fast forward, I don't know how many years, my older daughters were off to college. Hannah was being homeschooled because she was pursuing acting, and we were sharing a lot of inspirational videos and quotes. And one morning, I remember it was July 21st, Hannah woke up and said, why don't we just do an app and just share it with everyone? Because we were already sharing these tools of videos.
The app came after the book?
The app came after the book. Yeah,
Okay.
Absolutely. The app is only 4 years old. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born April 18th, 2018. Hannah said, why don't we just create this? And it was all of our passions put together, because we all believed in female empowerment, and female empowerment can only come when you feel empowered within. So, and that applies to all of us, human empowerment. We need to care for our needs in order to be able to show up for other people.
Have you ever talked to your girls about whether they feel good enough? Now, do they have an I'm not good enough feelings? Having you as a mom,
Yeah. Oh my God.
it's this awareness about it.
Yeah. Talk about many things being true at once. Yeah, I can feel like the best mom one day. I don't know if you can relate to this as a dad. And then the next day I would be like, oh my God, what did I just say? What did I just do? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, I fucked this up. Like, I don't know.
Totally.
Yeah. So
Yep.
a lot of self-compassion and kindness needs to be
Compassion's a
incorporated.
big word.
Yeah.
Empathy. Would you agree, like, the idea of like feeling heard? So like, I try to listen to understand what they're saying, like to really be present so that they don't feel like they're not being listened to. right? That's, to me, it seems like a big deal. And it's easy for me because as a kid, I wasn't listened to.
Wow.
So would you say that's also something like for little girls especially, they've got to feel heard?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Feeling heard, feeling valued, feeling that they're enough, feeling that it's okay to be different. It's okay to be awkward. It's okay to mess up. And for us as parents or adults,
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
to show our kids that we mess up and that it's okay. Because even though they may perceive us at certain points in their lives up until a certain age, that we're these amazing people, perfect people, we're not. And it's okay. And I have to tell you, from very early on, my girls knew that I saw them as my teachers. Yes, I'm their mom, and yes, I'm going to guide them, but I'm also going to be learning from you. And they taught me a lot, and they've taught me lessons I don't want to learn, and they've taught me things about myself I don't want to see. So it's I also see parenting, if we're talking about parenting, as an interactive exchange. It's not only me disciplining you and keeping you safe and guiding you, but it's also what are you here for to teach me?
That's uncommon. You know that.
I believe it. I believe it to be true. I think they're here I think they come to us for a reason. And it's not easy.
It's an uncommon belief.
Yeah.
Like we see, you can't judge other people, but we see other parents. We see there's a lot of blame.
Yeah.
Like when you were saying it's okay to mess up, what I thought was like, wow, kids mess up all the time. And we hear parents turning it into, why did you do that? What's wrong with you? And it's all that that stuff that they hear it and they don't forget it. And I'm telling, I can speak from experience. You don't forget that stuff.
Yeah.
My daughter will do something, or she'll, whatever, she'll do something, and rather than, so intentionally as to not create a feeling of being blamed, I stop and think about how can I say this? How can we talk about it so she's not feeling like she is going to walk away holding on to something that's really negative.
Wow.
It's hard to explain what I'm actually trying to say, but I think it's coming
Yeah,
across.
of course,
I'm aware of what I'm going to say is going to create a feeling. And while they need to learn to cope and to live life, I also don't want to create this inadequacy feeling, or I'm always doing something wrong.
Right.
I don't think most people think about that.
Wow.
I haven't observed it. I hear my peers, who are all wonderful people, yelling at their kids constantly. Why'd you do this? And a lot of it is things that lead to you're not good enough.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, these kids are going to grow up, but you can't say anything to anybody.
Yeah.
And we're not perfect, but you're uncommon because you have such an awareness. And I'm going to bring it back to what I think we might have in common in a very different way. But when you have trauma in your life and you go through the search and you find yourself and you get in touch with a lot of things we talked about, I hear from people like us that there are commonalities that are uncommon in general. And the way we think, because we've had conversations so far here today that with a lot of like-minded thinking, I think it comes from that the trauma, the search, the discovery, and then becomes wisdom. And for me, it's kind of validating to hear you say some of the same things that I believe, which are true to me, but they're true to you too. So I'm like, oh, okay, there's somebody else that thinks the same way as me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And it's a journey.
It's a journey.
You made it sound like you could wrap it up but it's a journey, right?
I can look back and wrap it up and say it like that, but it's the entire life.
Yeah, and God willing, for years and years to come, as long as we're here, we're on a journey, and we're going to be, if today I wake up and I have a great walk with nature, but then I get home and something challenges that heart-centered, amazing Corin that woke up this morning, I got to figure out how to deal with that.
Got to go for a walk again.
Yeah, got to go for a walk again.
You're walking all day?
I've done that.
What's the message? Actually, there's two things. One, so the 25-year-old version of you, what would you, not version, but if you can go back and you can say something to the 25-year-old you, now what would you say?
I would say you're enough.
Perfect.
Yeah, I would say you're enough. Where you are, you're enough.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What message overall beyond that? Just, you've seen so many people and you've seen so many circumstances and you've done so much in business, in the work that you do, I should say, the people that you've met, the lives you've impacted. Is there any takeaway that you've seen so much of a certain pattern maybe that you can say, oh, you know what? Hey, if you all could just keep this in mind, things would be a little better for you. Does anything come to mind? Am I being clear the way I'm asking?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think what first came to mind intuitively is that we all do want to be heard and we want to be appreciated.
Awesome. Yes.
We want to be
Yeah,
appreciated.
yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's so important, even the small things.
That's a good place to end it. I can go on and on. There's like 1,000 more questions I could ask you, but that's a good place to end it. Thank you. I really appreciate you that you took the time and had this conversation with me.
Thank you. Thank you for creating the space and the comfort for me to open up.
So thank you for coming on this show. Is there any, so your book or you in general, if there's any place people can find you, find the book, like what do you want to tell people? Look right over there.
I would say to download Womaze. It's a free app, and it's a free app for everyone. It offers tools on mental health and self-care. You have videos and articles and quotes, and of course, we send those daily push motivations, which really come at the right time.
So how do you get those? Did you say it just now? How you get those notifications?
So you download the app. It's for free. Yeah.
Okay.
And it'll guide you through as to how to do that.
Okay. And we'll put that down below. So that's going to be down there.
Okay.
Maybe your email address, website.
Absolutely.
We'll put everything down in the
Absolutely.
description.
You can find me. You can find me very easily.
Do you work with people still?
Do I work with people? Not in therapy.
Okay.
I am in therapy, but I don't work as a therapist. I love people.
Okay.
I love people. I do real estate, and I think what my clients see in me is that I just love connecting. And I will just go all the way to make sure that the experience is meaningful.
So we're going to put your Facebook, your LinkedIn, whatever you've got. We're going to put it down below. People can connect with you.
Okay. I'm not big on social media, but sure, go ahead.
That's it. So I finish the show with this. Be humble, hustle, do the work, reach your potential. And that's why this is a good conversation.
Wow.
This is going to motivate people. It's going to inspire people. We said so many things here today.
You're so
So
kind.
thank you again.
Much success to you. Continue doing what you're doing.
Thank you.